Let me tell you a story about a relationship that started out as a rescue mission and ended in an all-out courtroom war. After just 3 years together, a couple splits up, and one of them demands a huge payday. So the question is, was he a victim who really deserved something, or was this whole thing just a calculated grab for cash?
$128,000. That is exactly how much Mr. Bignell demanded from his ex-partner, Miss Radner. He claimed he was entitled to about a quarter of their combined assets, and he wanted her to cut him a check for it. His argument sounded pretty simple on the surface. He was broke, she was well off. So shouldn't she, for fairness' sake, help him get back on his feet?
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? When a relationship ends between someone with money and someone with debt, is the law supposed to just step in, take from the rich, and give to the poor to make it all fair? It seems straightforward, but as this case went on, a very, very different picture started to emerge.
To really understand how the judge came to his final decision, we have to rewind and go back to the very beginning. Because this wasn't just any relationship. For one of them, it was quite literally a lifeline. The story he told in court was about a poor man who'd been wronged, but the evidence? Well, that painted a picture of a savior and someone who is being saved.
I mean, you couldn't find two people in more opposite situations when they first met. Miss Rodner, she was a successful professional, stable career, good income, owned her own place. Mr. Bignell, on the other hand, was in the middle of a complete financial meltdown. He was out of work, absolutely drowning in credit card debt, and was literally about to declare bankruptcy and lose his house. She was on solid ground. He was getting buried by a financial avalanche. So what did Ms. Radner do? She launched a full-scale financial rescue operation. First, she took more than $45,000 of her own money and credit to wipe out his old credit card debts. Then, to stop him from going bankrupt and losing his house, she took out a massive loan for $377,000 in her name only to buy the house from him. And as if that wasn't enough, after he quit his job, she became the sole provider, paying for absolutely everything.
The judge in the case really hit the nail on the head. He said that Ms. Rodner helped him to her own detriment. Think about that. Every dollar she spent pulling him out of his financial mess was a dollar that put her own future at risk. This wasn't a partnership. It was a one-woman bailout. But that's not the story Mr. Bignell told in court.
Okay, so this is where the whole story takes a massive turn. Inside the courtroom, to get that $128,000, Mr. Bignell had to prove that he actually made some significant contributions. And the way he decided to do that, well, let's just say it involved some creative accounting.
The core of his deception was right there in his sworn legal documents. He claimed he brought all these assets into the relationship, $40,000 in furniture, $30,000 in home entertainment, but then, under questioning, the truth came out. His excuse? He claimed he had simply accidentally added a zero to every single item. What he called a typo, everyone else called a flat-out lie.
And yeah, the judge was not fooled for a second. He didn't see some innocent clerical error. He called it a deliberate effort to inflate and manipulate the facts. The judge basically said there were way too many of these errors for them to be an accident. This wasn't a mistake, it was a strategy, and it completely blew up his credibility.
Oh, and the wild stories didn't end there. To explain where some other money came from, his sister gets up and testifies that she'd saved up $25,000 in cash by selling used furniture and working at a daycare, and kept it all in a soda bottle. Yeah, the judge found that story, let's just say, less than convincing, calling it rehearsed and implausible. Every lie was just digging him into a deeper hole. So after the massively inflated numbers and the bizarre story about the soda bottle savings, Mr. Bignell's whole case was pretty much built on a foundation of lies. It was time for the judge to decide, was he going to rule based on sympathy for the guy with less money, or was he going to rule based on the cold, hard facts? The verdict was decisive. Application dismissed. So what does that mean? It means his claim was thrown out completely. He got nothing, $0, zilch. The court refused to order any property to be transferred, any money to be paid. His legal counterattack had totally and completely failed.
So why the firm no? Well, the judge laid out 5 crystal clear reasons. First, the relationship was short, just about 3 years, and they didn't have any kids. Second, they never really mixed their finances. The judge said they operated as separate entities. Third, her financial contributions absolutely dwarfed anything he brought to the table. I mean, he literally started with a negative net worth. So, given all that, the judge decided the only just and equitable, the only fair, outcome was to change nothing at all.
This kind of ruling created what's often called a clean break. He was to leave with nothing more than the debts he came in with. The law essentially hit a reset button, sending both of them back to their financial starting points. It was a clear message against rewarding dishonesty and what the courts saw as pure financial dependency. So this case is way more than just some dramatic courtroom story. It's a huge cautionary tale, and it is packed with some critical lessons for all of us about love, money, and the law. So what can we take away from this entire financial and emotional train wreck? Okay, here are 5 huge takeaways. First, being in a rescue relationship can quickly turn into a financial black hole. Second, lying in court is the most expensive shortcut you can possibly take. Your credibility is everything. Third, you've got to have clear financial boundaries, especially early in a relationship. Fourth, fairness in family law isn't about playing Robin Hood. It's about justice based on what actually happened. And finally, document everything. At the end of the day, Miss Radnor's detailed records were her best defense.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question that's really at the heart of this whole story. It's something we should probably all ask ourselves. In any relationship, where do you draw the line between generous, loving support and a level of self-sacrifice that becomes truly dangerous?